Hello everyone, so welcome you all to a short tutorials Meghalaya's first MTED channel. So my dear friends, in this video we are going to deal with unit 6 video number 4. Alright, what is that video number 4 all about? Let us see. So it is about approaches to learning and teaching, teacher-centered approach, learner-centered approach, and constructivist approach. So technically here we are going to talk about the different approaches to the learning and the teaching, especially to teacher-centered approach, learner-centered approach, and constructivist approach. Alright, so these are the things we are going to discuss in this video, right? Now, approaches to teaching and learning. Teaching and learning can be approached in various ways, each reflecting different philosophies of education and classroom practices. Below is an explanation of three prominent approaches. So, teaching and learning can be approached in various different ways, each reflect their own philosophy of learning in terms of education, right? And the classroom practices they follow. Below are three basic types of approaches which we use in the process of teaching and learning. So let us see one by one. So first of all, we have teacher-centered learning. What is this? I also have no idea. Let us see. Let us see this. This approach focuses on the teacher as the primary source of knowledge and authority in the classroom. See, when we say teacher-centered approach, means teacher is the boss of the class, which means teacher is the authority in the class, which means teacher, whatever he says, he is always right, he is always correct, he is the source of knowledge, he is the source of wisdom. The role of the teacher is to deliver content while students are expected to listen, absorb, and follow instructions. So in this teacher-centered approach, what happens is that the students, they are not allowed to speak, to express their feelings or to clear their doubts or queries, right? They are discouraged because here the main focus is the teacher. Teacher is the boss, as I say, right? So here the learners, they are expected to listen passively whatever the teacher is teaching, broken teaching, irrelevant teaching. The teacher himself don't understand what he's teaching, but still the students, they have to just sit quietly and listen to his lecture. Why? Because this is the process which we call as teacher-centered learning. So my dear friends, always remember, we never accept, we never believe, and we never allow teacher-centered learning in a good educational institution. Teaching should always be learner-centered. Learning should always be learner-centered, because we don't teach the teacher, we are teaching the learner. So it should always be in the interest of the learner, never a teacher-centered one. So I hope you understood what do we mean by teacher-centered approach. So what are the characteristics? Let us see. Focus on the teacher. So as I told you, the teacher is the boss of the class. Passive learning. As I told you, that students will just sit quietly, listen to the lecture, and write down the notes and memorize, right? Structured environment. So in a teacher-centered classroom, the students are not flexible. They are not allowed to participate. They are not involved in the activities. They are not, given the opportunities which they deserve. So it is a rigid structure. It is a rigid classroom, which is not good for the students. Evaluation method. Assessment is often summative, emphasizing test and exams. So you know that there are two types of assessment. One is summative assessment, another one is formative assessment. So in teacher-centered classroom, what happens is that the assessment is summative. Summative means once the teacher finishes taking the lecture, then at the end of the day, he might give you class test or he might give you exams, all right? So this is called summative assessment. Formative assessment means what? Formative assessment means I am teaching the topic to you. Let it be like reproduction. I'm teaching you there are two types of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. But At the same time, I am asking you questions like, yes, tell me, what mode of reproduction do fungi follow? Or what mode of reproduction do human beings follow? So these things you should be telling me, right? You will tell me that, sir, this is so and so, this is so and so, which means it is a formative assessment, right? I am, always remember, this question is being asked in MTET exam, that formative assessment takes place during the course of learning, which means if I am teaching right now and I'm asking you questions, that is formative assessment, but summative assessment means at the end of the course, right? So when you in the classroom while teaching the students, you are asking them the questions, right? That is formative assessment during the course of study, right? But after the end of the course or after the end of the study, that test is known as summative assessment, right? Now, what are the advantages of teacher-centered classroom? Efficient for covering large amounts of content in a limited time. So in a teacher-centered classroom, the teacher can finish one chapter in a day or two chapters in a day, right? Provide clear expectations and structure. So the teacher, since he is the authority in the class, he will say, I expect you to behave this way, I expect you to listen to me carefully, I expect you not to make the noise and just listen carefully. Suitable for foundational knowledge and skill acquisition. So this teacher-centered approach might be suitable for foundational knowledge or the basic knowledge, right? Disadvantage: limits creativity, critical thinking, and active participation. Of course, this is very bad. So it limits your creativity. You are not allowed to express yourself. You are not allowed to think critically, and you are not allowed to participate in the classroom or in the process of teaching and learning. Does not address diverse learning needs or styles. Of course, this is authoritative teaching, so that's why the method of teaching will not be flexible, it will be rigid, it will be according to the wish of the teacher, and not according to the need of the learners, right? Learner-centered approach. So this is the approach which we as teachers should follow, right, my dear friends? So this approach emphasizes the role of the learner in the educational process. Students are active participants and teacher acts as a facilitator or guide. Yes. So in learner-centered classroom or in learner-centered approach, what happens is that students are the constructor of the knowledge, or students are the active learners in the classroom. They participate in the classroom, they take part in the activities, they take part in experiments, they take part in brainstorming. So in all, in all the classroom activities, the student is the main focus. In learner-centered classroom, students are the main focus. Teacher is just a guide or a helper who will help the students in finding out solutions to the different problems which is mentioned in the curriculum, right? So what are the characteristics of a learner-centered classroom? Let us see. Focus on the learner. Students' interest, needs, and ability shape the learning experience. Yes. So in a learner-centered approach or in a learner-centered classroom, students are the main heroes, right? They are the main core of the system. So it is according to the student's interest, it is according to the student's needs and abilities, right? The curriculum provided, it is all in the favor of the learner, right? Active participation. So as I told you that in learner-centered approach, student will take part actively, right? He is an active member of the group, he is an active participant of the group. It is creative thinking, problem solving skills, and self-directed learning as well. Collaborative environment. So in a learner-centered approach, you will allow the students to collaborate with one another, to cooperate with one another, teamwork, and you will ask them to do certain task or find solutions to a certain problem in groups or in teams, right? Evaluation method. So assessment is formative, including portfolios, projects, and reflections. See here what happens is that the process here in learner centered is formative, which means it takes place during the course of time. You can take help of portfolios, you can give the students to do their projects and self-reflect by themselves, right? What are the advantages? encourage critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving skills in the learner, right? Addresses diverse learning styles and paces. So it takes care of the slow learners, the intelligent and the creative, and also the underachievers, right? Fosters a sense of responsibility and autonomy in learners. So it gives a responsibility to the learners that yes, you are an active participant of this classroom or this educational system. So that's why it's your responsibility to do your homework, to do your classwork, to keep your classroom clean, to manage your time, to be disciplined in the class, right? Now, what are the disadvantages? Time consuming and less structured. So, learner centered approach is time consuming because everybody is participating. So, of course, you know that it will be time consuming, right? Requires skilled facilitation by the teacher. So, of course, a skilled facilitation will be required by the mentor, guide, or the teacher. May lead to unequal participation in group settings. Of course, some children might be participating in the group activities while the others are ignored or others are not given the chance to participate. So, this may affect the classroom. All right. Now, let us see the third part or the third type, that is constructivist approach. What is constructivist approach now? Based on the theory of constructivism, always remember, my dear friends, whenever you hear the word constructivist or constructivism, always one psychologist should come into your mind. And who is that? That is none other than Leo Vygotsky. Always remember Leo Vygotsky whenever you hear about social construct or constructivism and all, right. Based on the theory of constructivism, this approach views learning as an active, contextualized process where learners construct knowledge through experience and interaction. So, according to constructivist theory, it is viewed it views students as the active constructor of the knowledge. It means they already have the knowledge, or they are, these are the learners who construct their own knowledge. How? Through experiences, through activities, and through interactions, right? What are the characteristics of constructivist approach? So, active learning. Students engage in hands-on activities, experiments, and real-world problem solving. So, in a constructivist classroom, the students are the active participant, right? They take part, they do experiments, they do activities, and they solve the real-world problems, right? Prior knowledge builds on learners' existing knowledge and experiences. Of course, nobody is blank, right? Everybody have one idea or the other. So, constructivist approach allows the learner to polish whatever the existing knowledge they have into a better one. Student-centered. Learners take ownership of their learning, often working collaboratively. So, in constructivist approach, what happens, learners, they are responsible for their own doings, right? They work collaboratively with one another, they cooperate with one another and come to a conclusion. All right. Role of the teacher. The teacher facilitates and guides students in exploring and discovering concepts. You always remember that the teacher should act like a facilitator. The teacher will not involve himself or herself directly into the students' learning, but he will just help the learners so that they can explore and discover what they want to with the help of the teacher, right? Use of real world context. Learning is connected to practical application and authentic situations. So, of course, we know that learning does not always mean formal education, going to school and learning. No, meditation. Then we know in the olden times how the students, they used to sit under the tree and gain the knowledge, right? So that is also learning, and how Buddha has given his teachings, right? So those are the things which don't need a theory or a formal education. We can just practically learn the principles of whatever we are interested in, right? What are the advantages of constructivist approach? Develops critical thinking, analytical skills, and creativity in the learners. All right, encourages deeper understanding of concepts. All right, it clears the concept in a better way. Promotes lifelong learning and adaptability. So, as we know, learning is a lifelong process, right? So, it helps the learner to have experiences and learn in a way which they will remember throughout their life. and they can adapt them easily. Disadvantages: require significant time and resources for planning and implementation. So this process, constructivism process or approach, needs a lot of time, and it is very much time consuming, and also needs a large number of planning and resources. May be challenging for students who prefer structured directive teaching. So this may be a problem or a challenge for some students who want to study through structured method, or who want to be the part of directive teaching. Now, demands a high level of teacher expertise. So only the expert teachers are required here to facilitate the process of learning environment, right, which facilitates learning in the children, right? So here a very highly qualified teachers are required who act as a facilitator. Now let us compare quickly the comparison of approaches. So there are three approaches given: teacher-centered, learner-centered, and constructivist. So what is the role of the teacher in first one? In teacher-centered, the role of the teacher is authoritative and instructor. In learner-centered, he acts like a facilitator and guide. In constructivist, guide and co-learner, right? Role of students in teacher-centered, passive listeners, right? They just sit and listen to the teacher's lecture. In learner-centered, it is active, they take part actively. And in constructivist approach, co-constructors of knowledge, they construct the knowledge along with the teachers. Learning focus, in teacher-centered, it is content delivery. In learner-centered, it is student needs and interest. And in constructivist approach, it is building knowledge through experiences. In assessment type, in teacher-centered, it is summative. In learner-centered, it is formative. And in constructivist approach, it is contextual and process-based. Now, you might be asking, or you might be thinking a question in your mind like, which one is the best option here? So the best option here is constructivist approach, all right, where we don't take students as subordinate, or where we don't take students as inferior, or where we don't underestimate the students' abilities, all right? So constructivist is the best process of teaching and learning. Then comes learner-centered approach, and then the last one is teacher-centered approach. So when you get three options, teacher-centered, learner-centered, constructivist, which one is the best one? Then always choose constructivist. Then second you choose learner-centered, and the last you choose teacher-centered, all right? So I hope that you have gained a lot of knowledge of the different approaches in the process of teaching and learning through this video. So until we meet next time, thank you everyone for staying connected with Ashok Tutorials, Meghalay's first MTED channel. Thank you and have a good day.